Okay, Brian Koberger was back in court today for the hearing that was the follow up hearing to last week's hearing about those surveys that the defense had done, where 400 people in Latah County were called and asked questions about the case to determine if there was bias in Latah County. And the hearing kind of quickly devolved into a change of venue hearing, even though that's not what it was supposed to be for, and that hearing was supposed to come up in May. But when all that was kind of said and done and muddled through, the biggest thing to come out of today's hearing was that Bill Thompson admitted that the victims were not stalked. Now, anybody that has truly followed this case and looked at just the facts, the probable cause affidavit, etc., knows that they weren't stalked. But unfortunately, conspiracy theorists and then several of the clickbait news media like Nancy Grace, News Nation, claimed they were stalked. So we found this out through some exchanges with Bill Thompson and the survey author, Brian Edelman.
Dr. Edelman, isn't it true that there are, among the 9 fact-specific questions, that's my characterization, of the 9 questions, we know which ones we're talking about. Not all of the representations in those questions came from the probable cause affidavit. Isn't that true?
That is true.
That Mr. Koberger allegedly stalked one of the victims. That's false. You know that to be false.
Which one?
That Mr. Koberger allegedly stalked one of the victims.
Yes, I was trying not to say that because.
But you knew that was false.
I did.
Yes.
So at issue was those false questions. So the stalking one, which is, have you read, seen, or heard that Brian Koberger stalked one of the victims? And then, have you read, seen, or heard that Brian Koberger had followed one of the victims on social media? Now, neither of these things is in the probable cause affidavit. So those are the ones they're saying are false questions. Now, Bill Thompson did not come out and specifically say that the social media one was false, but we can conclude that that likely is as well, especially because nobody has ever proven that he did follow them on social media. And I think it would have been in the probable cause affidavit or come out by now. So these are the 2 questions that everything is kind of hinging on. Judge is also concerned about these 2 questions.
Questions that aren't true, okay, and those were not in the probable cause affidavit, and so I think it does have some bearing on the non-dissemination order because our whole purpose, okay, both counsel were trying to protect these things from coming out to the public or to the media. That's, I think, one of the key issue, okay, or the concern about these particular statements. So there were 2 questions right at the end.
Now you can hear how Judge is still concerned that those 2 questions violate the non-dissemination order. He also goes on to ask Mr. Edelman if they can redo that survey without those 2 questions on there.
Go ahead with that and have legitimate data.
So I think you have the 9 questions. So if you look at it, are the other ones okay? Are you telling me there's 2 that you would like to exclude and keep the other 7?
Well, maybe. I'm not. I haven't made a decision, but I'm just wondering if. I mean, at first in your testimony, you said, "Well, if we can't, I can't do it without doing the same questions." That's one of the problems. Okay, the part of this argument. I mean, if maybe it can be done without sort of sending information out there that is false, that might, affect people or looking into that or thinking that it is, they believe in it, even though they shouldn't. Is that something that can be done?
Well, if you do it that way, you're there are potential compounds and things that will arise. And again, the thing I struggle with, and I understand the public record dissemination, so we've done this before. The thing I get to is like, we're not really disseminating it. We're asking if people know about detail that has been disseminated through the megaphone of the media. So I'm really trying to just track what people know. I'm not trying to pass on information through a megaphone. So we're talking about 400 people that are talking to out of the county of 500,000 or something, Ada County. Like the plus the risks and benefits of doing it that way. It seems like there's a very low risk of undermining or contaminating the jury pool when you're doing that versus the risk of getting a huge black hole of, well, we don't know what percentage know this highly prejudicial detail.
Now, the defense thought they got a slam dunk against Bill Thompson with this slide that they put into their presentation, where he was at the press conference before the probable cause affidavit was released, telling the media to share the details with their viewers. Except this is very disingenuous by the defense. Now, the reason why that was disingenuous, and Bill Thompson also explained why during the hearing, was because he did not tell the media to spread misinformation. He told them to go to the official court documents, the probable cause affidavit, and spread the facts. So I don't think that punch landed where the defense really thought it would land. And then Elisa Massa, the one of the defense attorneys working with Ann Taylor, she got really upset about being accused of violating the non-dissemination order.
Really quickly with this, we didn't violate the non-dissemination order. You know, the information that now he's calling facts, you know, he's flip-flopping between whether or not it's a false fact or a fact that's in the survey. The information that was put in the survey is based on the public record and information that the way that the state and state actors put information into the public record that has now been disseminated. And we have not violated that order. And I do resent being accused of that.
Now, clearly, if you listen to the hearing today, you could tell throughout the hearing that Judge still isn't convinced that they didn't violate the non-dissemination order, at least with those two questions that weren't from the probable cause affidavit. So, to reiterate, he did say that it was going to take him probably a couple weeks to decide how to go forward, because he's got to decide whether the surveys can go forward as is, whether he wants different questions on the surveys, or whether he's not going to allow them at all. And because of that, he moved out the change of venue hearing until June 27th at 10 a.m. Now, there still will be a hearing after all in May. Rather than cancel that time set aside, Ann Taylor decided that she would like to still use it for them to work out some things with the prosecution. Probably some of those outstanding motions about discovery. So we shall see what happens in the coming weeks. And remember, coming up really soon is also the deadline for the defense to submit the alibi if they want to do an alibi defense.